Good evening. It's just gone 7 o'clock on a Tuesday, so you all know what that means. It's the Tuesday ticket, and I am your host, David Logue. And as always on a Tuesday, when we do the show, it's been a while, we have Phil McGinley and Regan Stevenson joining us. So, welcome along to the Boise Bus, guys. How are we all doing? We doing all right?
Doing well, David, doing well. How are you?
I'm all right. I'm all right, Regan. I feel like I've not seen you in quite
I
some
know,
time. It's been about 4 weeks since we did a show, I think, before
it's been a
Christmas.
while.
Yeah. Phil,
Absolutely
what's
great,
good?
mate.
You doing all
Smashing.
right? Good.
Aye, all good, man. All good.
Well, like I said, it's been a while since we've done a show because obviously Christmas Eve landed on Tuesday and then New Year's Eve also landed on a Tuesday. And to be honest, I couldn't be fucked. So I'm just being honest.
Honest?
We all like honesty and on the
Yeah, you're the only person that's been honest this week in the Celtic world, to be honest. So there you go.
Did we all have a good New Year? Yes.
Yeah, absolutely fine. Yeah, man. Good.
It's been a week
Yeah,
since.
enjoyed it.
We're over it now. We're into January.
Ugh.
We'll deal with that January.
Horrible month.
Horrible month, but we'll get through it.
Yeah.
And of course, by doing these shows for all of you lovely, lovely viewers. But before we do that, give us a like, give us a share, buy some hair, become a Boise Bus member for a small cost of $1.99. All our content is absolutely free. That is just your way of supporting the bus and keep the wheels on the road. And of course, big shout out to buysports.com. Get your tasty pastry treats with a little 12.5% off discount at the checkout with, like I said, the code BUS1888. And I'm seeing some familiar faces in the chat tonight. Ian McIntosh, Patrick Kerrigan, Ali, Boheed Bob. That's a new name.
What a name.
What a name.
It's not as good a name as the Slabber and Cabbage. That's still my favourite one, to be fair, out of all the regular viewers. But Boheed Bob's got a good one, to be fair.
Boheed Bob. He's from Swansea, so I can't do a Welsh
No.
accent. So I'm
No,
not
he's
trying.
doing a piss take of Brendan.
Oh, of course. Right over the head. See, I said to you, Regan, before we came on, I would be a bit rusty.
Yeah.
And I've already missed a joke from I do apologise. And of course, smell the glove. Hail, hail, dynamic dudes. Welcome along to the Tuesday Ticket. Now, for any of you that haven't been on a Tuesday Ticket before, this is the show that originated from doing all the news, the gossip, and the hearsay that we used to do on the Sunday Blether. But we moved over to the Tuesday Ticket, where we concentrate on that. Of course, the January transfer window has opened. Therefore, a lot of rumours have begun, which seem to have upset our manager the other day. Of course, if you haven't watched yesterday's show, you'll get the Judge and Mix and Pam's view on Brendan Rodgers' slightly odd outburst after a 3-0 win against St Mirren. He's obviously had another presser today, Phil, where he double downed, you could say, but maybe a little less prickly, we might say. He stands by his words. He doesn't. He's not backing down, Phil. I mean, you can kind of respect that, I suppose. I mean, the man wants to be honest with the fans.
Mm-hmm.
He could have had a bit of. He's had a bit of criticism in the past of being not so honest. So
yeah,
he's trying to be honest with us, Phil. Quickly, because I don't want to go over yesterday's show. But what was your overall feelings about the comments on Brendan? Were they merited? Was it just a bit of maybe he's just want to get some things off his chest, or was it just bizarre to you?
Yeah, the whole thing was very out of character. I felt it was so out of nowhere. Overall, my feelings on everything that was said on the post-match on Sunday, I don't 100% disagree with everything that he said, but I disagree with how he said it and how he put it across. I think it was like the tone was so snarky, bit of venom in there. He was obviously clearly a massive bee in his bonnet, essentially. Was it a fallout from Thursday? And all the noise around that. I mean, I'm a season ticket holder at Celtic Park. I've been going since 2007. I've seen more than enough games where teams come to Celtic Park and sit with 10 men behind the ball. I literally said on Friday night with Liam, doing the Friday feeling preview in the St Mirren game, I says, we know what to expect for St Mirren, 10 men behind the ball, low block. There'll probably be some big clogger in the team, a wall puncher, Gogic, for example, just runs around, sticks a foot in, just, that type of physicality. And I've seen these games enough times where, you're up against this wall of players, it's hard to break down. I understand you can't go out and win, 5-6-0 every game, as much as I would absolutely love it. There's going to be these turgid games, but it's just the way that he went about it. And there were a few moments as well, though, where I get what you're saying, Brendan, about the play and the fans getting on top of it, but there were some moments during Sunday. One in particular stands out where Austin Trusty came forward with the ball in the first half. This might very well be the moment that he was referring to. He kept talking about this 20-minute mark because it was somewhere in the middle of the first half where Trusty brings it forward to about the halfway line and Greg Taylor's sort of hugging the sideline. He passes it to Taylor and Engels comes short and takes the ball off him, who instantly gives it back to Trusty, who then gives it to Taylor again, back to Engels, back to Trusty. Trusty then plays it to Engels, who gives it back to him. And at this point, this is all in a 15-second spell, this happens. And at that point, the crowd generally were like, arms up in the air, like, what's that? So then he then passes it across to Carter Vickers. And it was like, yeah, I get what Brendan's saying about, they pass it sideways and back to change the angle of attack. But that little passage of play, there was no change in the very angle. It was literally Engels kept giving the ball back to Trusty, and Trusty just eventually moved it to Carter Vickers. It'd be different if, okay, they came down one side, they can't get anywhere, so they switch it and go to the other side. You can get it, but there was moments like that where I get what Brendan's trying to say, but then there are some moments where the players just genuinely were just phoning it in. The bit that irked me the most about the whole thing, though, was the Kieran Tierney and Taylor stuff, because I've said a few times on Twitter, I said in the Boise Bus chat, my worry is with him putting that out there, because the club, there's enough evidence now to suggest that the club are very much in for Kieran Tierney. So it's going to look a bit awkward on Brendan with the way that he's really defended his man, Greg Taylor, saying things like he wants Greg to stay. If we then bring in Kieran Tierney, potentially in the same month, who is probably going to replace Greg Taylor. And let's be honest, if Kieran Tierney was to appear this month at Celtic, he's not coming here to sit on the bench. He's coming here to play. So after, his words to, basically sort of, he's trying to distance himself and protect his player. I get that. But there is enough evidence out there to suggest that the club are very, very much in to try and get Kieran Tierney. So that was my biggest worry about it. The stuff with the crowd and whatnot, I say it's the tone he delivered it in really was way off. But yeah, that bit at the end about the Tierney and Taylor stuff was just like, yeah, man, that's when he really lost me on that one. I was just like, this could be a big egg on his face if Kieran Tierney does indeed sign for us.
I mean, we'll get into the Kieran Tierney chat soon, Reegan, because we've got plenty of rumours, gossip in here, so they get through tonight. But sticking with Brendan Rodgers at the minute, I'm looking at the comments coming through, and it seems that his comments from today's presser seem to have dug the hole a little bit further, annoyed the fans, certainly in the chat anyway, a little bit more. I don't know how I feel about the whole situation. I've always just kind of been like, meh, when it comes to like comments coming from the managers. Reegan, I mean, it's a very reactionary sport that we watch. We watch it and we live in the moment, and I find myself plenty of times groaning and moaning about silly things that within 5 minutes later somebody's probably telling me like, do you even know what you're watching? And I get it plenty in here. I get it plenty in the chat like this. The fuck's David talking about? Doesn't he care what he's talking about? So is Brendan maybe just showing he's human in that sense, that he's just bugging him enough that he's just kind of taking the moment and the wrong moment to kind of just almost forget who he actually is to Celtic? You're the manager, mate. You have to kind of be more professional, be a bit more reserved. We've seen it at the end of the last season after he wrapped up the title. We got to see full Brendan come out and just be like, he's acted as if I'd never managed before. He got a few things off his chest that had clearly been bugging him the entire season. You think it's just timing's everything, Reegan? And what made me kind of, and this is kind of what I'm like, by the way, so this is maybe why I know I can understand why fans, especially how passionate a lot of our fans are, can be even more annoyed at the comments, Reegan. But I kind of got the "I'm sorry you feel that way" kind of vibes off of Rodgers Day. You know, when somebody tells you they want you to apologise, I do it all the time, and then it makes things worse. They're like, especially with the missus, I want you to. My apology tends to come out with "I'm sorry you felt that way," rather than and I kind of feel like that's what he's done today. He still kind of believes what he's saying in terms of the moaning and groaning of the fans' reactions, but we're watching things live. That's how we feel. And then after the game, he's reacted as how he has felt right
Yes.
after the game. I'm not making excuses for him. I think
Oh.
that's kind of maybe what's happened, Reegan. But he's not really the apology, if there was one today, there certainly didn't come across sincere if there was one.
I think Brendan Rodgers is just showing his power at Celtic at the moment. I think he thinks he's in total control of everything at Celtic. Especially because we're 13 points clear. I don't think Brendan Rodgers does this if it's a close title race and things are going really bad at the moment. I think he chose that because he knows that Celtic are on the way to another title, and he's saying everybody just stay realistic. The players are doing okay, and I think in terms of what Phil was saying there, in terms of, I tend to agree that it's probably a bit of the deflection tactics, because if you look at the media straight after the Rangers game, it was all about how bad Celtic were and things like that. So maybe he's just trying to deflect the kind of narrative, because he knows that Celtic were so bad, and he even said that on Sunday himself, that he didn't expect the players to put out that sort of bad performance against Rangers. So I don't know if it was a little bit calculated, David.
There's a lot of comments coming wondering if he's maybe looking for an out. I mean, you wouldn't
No,
put it past him. It's not something that's never happened before, not just with Brendan, just with any other managers. I mean, I think you'd he'd learn his lesson after last time, if that was the case. But you never know. I mean, we all know there's an ego there, right? And there's no getting around that, Phil. But we have to accept, right? When we like it, we like the ego when it's kind of getting pointed at in the other direction.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, when you've got an egotistical person like Brendan Rodgers, eventually he is going to turn around and show that side to us. Now, there was a comment there I quite liked. Where was it? Patrick. He's every right to say what he said, because that's obviously how he feels, and that's, he's entitled to feel whatever way he's feeling. But timing is everything. Timing is everything, Phil. Reegan, sorry, what were you going to say?
I think it's also important to mention something that he said on Sunday as well, is that not every game that we're going to go into, and you guys know, not every game is going to be 3 or 4-0 by half time. So I think we need to be realistic as well. He's also got a point that we're not going to be swashbuckling football every single game. Not every game is going to be beautiful football.
Of course not.
Celtic, so I think also he's trying to make it realistic for the supporters as well.
Yeah, but Reegan, this is the thing. Like, you're spot on. It isn't always going to be swashbuckling, free flowing, attacking football. We're going to go through periods like that. But just listen, just because we're playing well and 13 points clear and everything, that doesn't then mean that you just ignore the deficiencies that are showing in the games. Because if you ignore it and let it fester, it only gets worse. That should be pointed out by us, the fans, the paying audience. We're the ones paying the ticket. If I pay a ticket to come to Celtic Park, I've earned the right to cheer, boo, shout, chant, sing, within reason, whatever I want, because I've paid that ticket and I want to show my support in a certain way. And if a supporter next to me wants to shout and scream criticism at a backward pass, that when he obviously he's entitled to do that. If Brendan's obviously not happy about it, but he has to also understand that as a fan, I can't help that I'm in in that moment I'm passionate and emotional with the club that I'm watching. If I see something, I can't help it. It's reactionary. The amount of times I've said something and just screamed like, "Why?" You lose it, and then if somebody was to tell you, take a wee step back and maybe understand why that pass, and maybe that's what Brendan was doing. Listen, I can see why you wanted Greg Taylor to make that forward pass. We all wanted to see it, but Taylor's followed my instructions and then he starts kind of telling you how to suck an egg, and I think that's maybe what's upped the fans a wee bit as well.
Yes.
Like, listen, I've watched football enough to, not to the level, obviously, of a Brendan Rodgers and any elite manager, but we've all watched enough football to understand why the player's done that. But at the same time, you've also been able to see, well, there was also another option which I would have rather had. It's a bit of a messy situation, and I don't want to just keep going on about it, but it's
the way you look at it, David, is see the last 3 home games we've played, we've not even had to really get out of second gear, if you're honest, and we've won 4-0, 4-0 and 3-0 against Motherwell, St Johnstone, St Mirren. So Brendan's points today, obviously just again hammering at home about, just patience. We're not going to be 4-0 up inside 20 minutes. Well, we could. I mean, we did blow away Ross County earlier this season. We were 5-0 up by half time. And there was a game last season against Dundee that we beat them 7-1 in a midweek game. And I think we were 5-0 up at half time. So it does happen from time to time. But every so often you will get these stodgy games where it's a bit of a slog, and you're only about 1-0 up at half time, which I believe we were in the St Mirren game, the St Johnstone game, and the Motherwell game, which we all went on to win, but it was 2-0 against St Mirren there. It was 1-0 with St Johnstone at half time, 1-0 Motherwell. We go on to win 4-0, 4-0, 3-0 in these games without really getting out of second gear. Because, these teams come to Glasgow and they've got no real aspirations of trying to play. They just want to sit and try and get a point, just defend for dear life. But usually once you get 2 goals ahead, it's plain sailing after that. There is that argument to it as well. And he did bring up the words bigger picture today in his press conference. The line that did tickle me the most was, I'm not going to beat about the bush when I'm talking about the bush. That was one of his lines that he put out there today as well in his presser. But overall, you said it at the top with the presser, it was he's obviously still sticking to his guns, but there definitely wasn't as much sort of snarkiness in the way that he put it across from Sunday. So, he still is, sticking to what he was. And I think fair enough he is, because he's already put it out there. Everyone knows what he said on Sunday. So to me, I think fair enough if he's doubling down and sticking to it. But there was definitely no sort of, there was something just really bothering him on Sunday. And was it a fallout from what happened on Thursday, which was an abysmal performance? And is it a bit naive of Brendan Rodgers to maybe think that the standard is high? I mean, he's the one that always talks about the standards at the club. He said a few times in press conferences, the standard's so high here. So can he really be surprised that the fans were a wee bit tetchy on Sunday after such a meek performance at Ibrox last Thursday? There's that as well.
Well, it's just the whole thing about learning from your mistakes. When we could all see what was going wrong in the Rangers game, and I think fans, rightfully or wrongly, seen it and the nerves kicking of, is this what we're going to be seeing again? We're not learning from the mistakes. But we got the 3-0 win at the end, right? And happy days. But listen, it's called constructive criticism. Criticism for criticism's sake, I'm not on board with. But if there's constructive criticism, then you got to be able to take that. And I get it. Like you said, we get it in the comments. There'll be people that totally disagree. I mean, there was about 50 odd comments last night on last night's show where contributors are getting called other things.
That's
just criticism for criticism. Say, give a constructive criticism, you can then take it on board. Understand? That's just life. I mean, I'm seeing here, and this is fine. Francis Lester, he's saying, I've watched Celtic since the 60s. You're spoilt with success. You're right. We are spoilt with success, and that's right. I mean, I've enjoyed a lot of success at Celtic, but you wouldn't have survived the years we won nothing for nearly 9 years. Listen, there's a lot. I get what you're saying, Francis, but I mean, there's plenty of fans in this chat right now that have watched it Celtic just as long as you have, and are probably just as annoyed at what's happened in the last couple of days. People get annoyed with things. It's not a case of like, well, just because you've supported through the darker days of Celtic means that we can't criticise what we've all seen on the pitch we're not happy with. I mean, it is what it is. But I totally get your point, Francis.
David, I said to Liam on Friday night, again, bigger picture. I'm definitely a sort of bigger picture type of fan. Thursday was disappointing, and whatever happened on Sunday with Brendan's words, it happened. It is what it is. We move on. But the bigger picture is, if this season pans out the way that we think it's going to pan out, and it's looking very likely that Celtic could lift the treble, see at the end of the season, nobody will be going on about, see that 3-0 tanking we took at Ibrox. Nobody will care. Nobody will care at that point once we get the trophies on board. We're just going through a bit of a lull right now with the performances, because it's a really busy schedule. Right now, I mean, we've got so many games in January alone. So there's going to be a dip in performance. We will get over this. And as I say, if the season goes the way it's looking like it's going to, all this will all be forgotten. It genuinely will.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. It's just a little bub, but we'll not be talking about it in a couple of weeks. Mr. A says, can we be honest? As much as Celtic have been winning, how many games since October have Celtic been full throttle on? Winning is wonderful, but you have to maintain the standards that you set early on. Yep, standards, obviously, when we set such high standards, so Reegan, you could argue, well, when we set them that high, it is difficult to maintain those standards through the course of a season. We will have our dips, just like what Monty said.
I think the important thing for Brendan Rodgers, I'm sure he spoke to Callum McGregor on Saturday before the match, and Sunday he said the most important thing after a game like Thursday against Rangers is getting 3 points, and that's the most important thing, because as we've seen, Rangers then go and drop points. So I think Brendan Rodgers is entitled to say what he thinks, and so are the Celtic supporters. So I think everybody just needs to be level-headed as well, and just understand where everything is. But I want to get onto the Tierney thing later on, Dave, because it'll be interesting to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, but we'll move on, because I think we're flogging a dead horse here now. Like what's said has been said, and we'll be over it soon. Just quickly on what Mr. A is saying here. If this, do you think because we're so far ahead that perhaps there's been complacency in the performances? Do you think that has played a part, and maybe Brendan knows this and it's been pointed out to him by the fans, and he's just not been happy about it? Because I don't think we would maybe be as, I don't know, I would say lackadaisical as we have been through October if Rangers or Aberdeen, remember them? Remember that time?
Yeah, remember that time. Yeah.
If they were still as close, because as the gap has gotten bigger, mind the gap, is maybe around about the same time that we have seen maybe chill out a little bit more sideways passing.
Yeah, Brendan did say in the post-match for the game at Ibrox after the game, again interviewed on Sky, he said something about maybe the 14-point gaps just made them a bit lackadaisical, essentially switched off a little bit. But then he followed that up quite by saying, I hope that's not the case. So I would imagine that wouldn't have been, that'd be on the players, I suppose. That'd be on them, because I don't think Brendan Rodgers going to switch off. He's very much a sort of prideful manager in terms of he wants to have all these records. We said last season when he lost that Kilmarnock game in the League Cup, he would have been really, really annoyed about losing that perfect record in the Cups and all the, the trebles that he'd won so far. So he would have been quite annoyed about that. So, yeah, to me, I don't think he would. He would definitely have drugged that. And if that is one of the reasons why, it would have been more on the players, I think. But luckily, they went out and did what they did in typical Rangers in January fashion, as we've seen over the last decade, where they get a wee positive result and then it all comes crashing down again. So we got a reprieve there, and we got ourselves back 13 points in front. So again, bigger picture, we are sitting pretty at the top right now. So all good in that sense.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right, we'll move on, because we're all getting a bit fed up talking about Brendan Rodgers. Forget it. Let's talk about some news gossip. Here's Reegan, you're keen to talk about a certain left back that started this whole mess in the first place, Kieran Tierney. So Celtic are expected to sign Kieran Tierney on loan from Arsenal this month before he joins on a permanent 3-year deal in the summer, and what will be a boost for Brendan Rodgers' side. It was reported by Fabrizio Romano earlier this week that negotiations had begun in terms of Celtic re-signing Tierney. The left back is out of contract at the end of the season, but he stated that talks were underway for an agreement to be reached for this month, with Tierney keen on a move back to Celtic Park. He had apparently turned down pre-contract agreements with Everton, West Ham, and another club. I do not remember who it was. However, there's been contradicting reports today by Fabrizio Romano's arch nemesis David Ornstein. Arsenal have not been approached about a January departure for Kieran Tierney, according to Ornstein. However, Celtic have opened negotiations with the player about a free transfer in the summer. So, if you're team Ornstein or your team Fabrizio Romano, you can decide which way who you want to believe. They're both as reliable as each other. Reegan, you've got a lot of thoughts on the Kieran Tierney situ. Do you see him coming in January, or do we see us sticking out with just Taylor and Valle in the meantime?
I want to pay my respect to Greg Taylor here. So if Brendan Rodgers is listening, but I'm just I think Tierney would be a great signing, but like I think for me, the thing that obviously that I want to talk about is the injury record that nobody's talking about. That's obviously the biggest issue for me because like if you look at somebody like Greg Taylor, he's played like 60 matches last season. So I just don't know if Tierney will be able to get through that amount of matches. So
How many matches would you consider to be not enough in a season, Reegan? Like, what would be unacceptable to you to sign a player of Kieran Tierney with this alleged, I'm going to say, injury issues that he has? Because he seems to be quite clear in interviews that he has been fitter a lot more than what reports have been said. Apparently, been available since the start of the season for Arsenal. However, Arteta's just not picking him. But what would be your number, your limit? You expect he at least has to be playing in a season to make it worthwhile signing him again?
35 in all competitions.
35 in all competitions. That would be your any less is unacceptable.
Yeah.
Okay, how many minutes per game do you expect? I'm not taking the piss. I'm asking this because I've got some stats in front of me of Kieran Tierney's last loan out in Real Sociedad, and his appearances were 20, and he started 14 of them, and he averaged minutes of 62 minutes per game. And he got 2 assists and created 2 big chances, and he got 2 clean sheets. Now, he got injured during that loan spell. That's why I'm asking. So they managed to get 20 games out of him in all appearances, and 14 of them he started, and he played an hour in majority of those games. Is that unacceptable to you for him to come if that was to happen again? Would that be not worth the risk on a Kieran Tierney? Or a Kieran Tierney of that, we know the level of player when he's fit that we're getting. Is it worth it? Knowing fine well we have a decent backup left back, whether it be Greg Taylor or whoever else, would it be acceptable?
If Greg Taylor was to stay, but I do believe that Greg Taylor is wanting a big wage demand. So if Greg Taylor was to stay, plus we've got Tierney, I think that'd be acceptable because Greg Taylor's shown is that he's able to be robust enough to play that number of games. But do I feel that we should be of course people can go in the chat and say, well, but we're getting the guy for a free transfer or whatever, but he's still going to be on a big hefty amount of money. And if you're going to say, right, well, Tierney's going to be on, I don't know, but he's going to probably be on probably about 40 grand a week, do I don't know. Maybe
he's on about near 80. Is it not near about 80 grand?
Yeah. I know, but I'm talking about
if it came to Celtic, sorry.
Celtic, yeah. Probably about 40 grand a week.
But it's purely speculation. He could command that, I imagine, if he's on 80 grand a week at Arsenal. It's never struck me as a boy that's too bothered about his wages. He's wanting to take a wage cut to come back, allegedly.
So I just don't know if it's worth the risk. I know it's great. I know it's great for the hype and all that sort of stuff, but I just don't know if it's worth the risk. And
it's not in my pocket, mate. That's I tried to. I know what you're saying though, because could that money be spent elsewhere on other players? But let's be honest here, Reegan, and Mark Kearney, the judge, has said it plenty in our group chat. In no other circumstances do we get a player of Kieran Tierney's quality at his age from a club the size of Arsenal on a free. He could, like you said, he's turned down West Ham, he's turned down Everton, he's turned down. I think it was at Brentford or regardless, Crystal Palace. I think it was. He's turned down big Premier League clubs that could keep him on those types of wages to come back and play for Celtic. Yeah. No other player playing in the Premier League on those wages, that ability is coming back to play in Scotland at 27-year-old. That's fact.
I totally get what you mean, but
It's worth the risk for me then, at that level. Sorry, Reegan, on you go.
Okay. That's where we can differ in opinion, David. That's why it's great to have different voices of opinion. But I just feel because
Sorry
Celtic,
you feel that way, Reegan.
I just feel like if Celtic want to get to the last 16 of the Champions League, they want to do well in the Scottish Cup, the League Cup, and the Scottish Premiership, they're going to be playing 50, 60 matches, and I don't think he's going to be up to it.
Squad depth for that, mate. That's why we've got squad depth.
But,
he's never going to play 50 games. We know that.
But also, do you think that if the club spend that amount of money on Tierney to come in, do you really think that they're going to spend the 25 grand on Greg Taylor to stay?
Wait, we're talking about a free transfer here.
No, but
do you know what I mean? That's what I'm saying. We know how much money is in the bank at Celtic. We know they can afford it.
I know that, but what I mean is, are the club going to spend 40 grand on Tierney and then another 25 grand for Taylor to sit on the bench?
If they want to be a big team and they want to progress, then they need to start doing that. We've said it loads of times about the mentality.
Listen, just quickly going back to Brendan Rodgers' comments on Taylor, he's doing that because, listen, if we get some sort of price tag for Taylor, we're not going to get very much if Brendan Rodgers is also standing in the crowd chanting the Kieran Tierney song along with the fans. Do you know what I mean? Listen, Greg Taylor's been great for this club. Listen, we've still got 3 months on this contract if everybody wants to buy him.
So, David, are you saying that you think that Brendan Rodgers is big enough Greg Taylor so someone comes in? Or are you saying that?
Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying.
Or do you, because I think genuinely that Brendan Rodgers wants Greg Taylor to stay because he said it that many times.
To be back up, mate. Stay to be back up because, listen, we get Tierney in and he can only play 20 games. We know we've got a decent enough left back there to play against St Mirren. So Tierney's fit to play against Real Madrid and all the other Champions League teams that we come up against.
I know that people should say that I shouldn't be that concerned about Taylor, but then also, from his point of view, he's proved the last couple of years that he's been up to the level to play week in, week out. So then is he going to be happy to sit on the bench?
If he signs a contract, that might just, and knowing that Kieran Tierney's coming in, then that'll, maybe that answers our question. Or maybe, listen, Greg Taylor has managed to keep other players out of the team already. Maybe he fancies his chances against Kieran Tierney as well. Also, Sam for Celtic, you're absolutely right. You can't just pick and choose what games that Tierney would be fit for. There's a 50% chance, probably maybe higher, chance that he will miss important European games. But that's when, this is why we're talking about risk. Phil, let's get your take on Kieran Tierney because me and Reegan are getting into some fisticuffs here.
I'm going to bring up a point from Monty, regular viewer Monty, and I think this is bang on, by the way. You're talking about injury records or whatnot. Well, what about this? CCV has missed chunks of games, as has Kyogo and Hatate over their times here.
Have you had dinner, Reegan?
So, there is that. I mean, we had last season, Carter Vickers was out for a good few months. He came back and then he was out again, and Hatate, the same. It can happen, and we still won a double last season. We still navigated our way through. Obviously, we don't want a whole team full of about 11 or 12 players that are like that, but I don't know if Hatate will even be here next season, and who knows what the future holds for Kyogo at the moment. But it does prove that we can get through a season, have a successful season with players that have got a bit of a sketchy, injury record. They just need to be managed correctly. And again, David, you nailed it. Head squad depth, squad rotation, that's crucial. Is Greg Taylor a good enough option to be second choice? Well, I would say he is. Does he himself want to be second choice? Probably not, because as you rightfully say, he has proved over the last 5 or so years he's done a no bad job. So that could be the sticking point, because at this stage, for him to be at this point of his contract, and he still hasn't signed one, obviously fans are going to start speculating. What is it? Is it just money? I don't know if Greg, is he going to be driven by just the money? Is it just the status that he's going to have at the club? Maybe Brendan Rodgers has had a chat with him and said that, look, my plan for you going forward is I'm going to bring in a better, not better, we don't use the word better, but another left back to compete. Maybe whatever. He doesn't fancy the rotation. He doesn't fancy it. So that could be it. So we'll find it. I mean, I'm still in the impression I don't think Taylor will be here next season. I think he will go. And again, I've said that a few times, but the Celtic board allowing a player to run their contract down and leave for nothing, that's not very Celtic board-like. I wouldn't be surprised if he'd left in January, but we'd have to have somebody in the door first before then. What does the future hold for Alex Valier as well? Is he going to be here next season?
Mark's favourite player, we're going to make a profit on Alexander Bernabei. Don't forget that.
Actually, the Bernabei deal, yeah. We got about €5 million for him.
What did we pay for him again? 4?
I think it was like 4 million, so we've made a profit of some kind. 4. Yeah.
Maybe we should just keep him again. No, we're not getting into that debate. No, listen, there was another point here from Brown Warrior. Have Carter Vickers, Hatate or Kyogo came back from injury at the same level as they were before their layoffs? That's a debate worth having. And I get your point. You're obviously whether... Listen, Reegan's 100%... Reegan, I'm loving the debate we're having, mate. And you're totally right. It's a massive risk because we're not just talking about just injury prone. Let's say he does stay fit. Is he the same player, the same level of player? I'd like to think he's learned a lot being down in the Premier League, and maybe he'll find it an absolute stroll in the park coming back to play in Scotland. This is all speculation. We still don't know if he's going to come, but if he does, I do personally, I think it's worth the risk at the age that he is, because it's going to be a free transfer. Listen, and if we do get him on loan in January, then I know it's not a tie before you buy, but it might. I think it's worth the risk. Is basically where I'm going with it. And I think the camp's split, Phil. When I look at the chat here, there is a lot of it's not worth the risk. It is worth the risk. I think Brendan obviously feels that it is.
I would definitely be pushing for that. I'd definitely push to get him in on loan if that's the case, if it is happening, because I don't think wait until the summer. We've got qualifying games in the summer for the Champions League. This comes up, so if it's a case of if Tierney does agree a pre-contract, my feeling is that, fair enough, he'll be coming in the summer full time, but I think Celtic should then push to just try and get him on loan for the rest of the season, because get him up here, get him playing regular so that he's not coming in cold, essentially, because he ain't going to play much for Arsenal for the rest of the year. Are Arsenal going to feel it worth keeping him down there? It would suit all parties, I think. If he agrees a pre-contract with Celtic, just send him on loan for the rest of the season to Celtic, get him up here and get him started.
See, another thought that I had 2 days ago or something like that. I thought about why he's not made it down south. Right, you spoke about that he's been back at Arsenal for the first part of the season and things are going well. But maybe that's maybe that is the exact reason why Mikel Arteta won't play him, because he knows that he's not able to trust that he's not going to be injured all the time, and that's why he probably doesn't see him as a valuable part of the squad, because Arsenal are going for the Champions League, they're going for the Carabao Cup tonight, they're going for the FA Cup, they're going for the league, and I don't think he sees Tierney as being that robust person that you can rely on every 2 or 3 days, and that's
I'm just because we'll have the lineup now.
He's on the bench.
He's on the bench for Arsenal tonight.
He's not starting. Okay, because I know he featured in the last round of the Carabao Cup, didn't he?
He did against Palace.
Yeah, yeah. Stephen Gallagher. It's funny. He heard a rumour that Greg Taylor has decided to stay to the end of the season. Who the fuck does he think he is? If true, a Celtic player on the contract, but he's kind of earned that. I get what you're saying, but that's so funny, man. Yeah, I mean, he's maybe earned the right to see out his contract. I suppose, he's. Let's give him that at least. Come on,
The Celtic board. The Celtic board. This is a board that one time pushed Joe Ledley pretty much out the door in the January window just to get 300,000 for him. So again, I just feel and David Turnbull last season as well he was going to be out of contract at the end of the season. He was moved on in January just to recoup some kind of money. So I just feel like it's not very Celtic board-like for them to not get any sort of money back. But hey, maybe times are a-changing. We have got a lot of cash already. So maybe they will allow him to run his contract down and walk away for nothing. Who knows?
Well, is it 6 years he's been at the club? Is that right? 6 years?
Yep.
Yeah.
I think we've made 2 million. I think we've got our money's worth out of him. I would say. Anyway, let's move on. Let's move on. There's a lot of rumours going around now. I'm going to be a bit of a quick fire here on some potential players that we've been linked with. Now, this is obviously the news, the gossip, and the hearsay section, so please take some of this with a pinch of salt. But it's content, all right? So we've obviously been linked with a few more midfielders in the last couple of days. One of our reported targets is Burnley midfielder Josh Brownhill, with the Englishman wanted by a host of clubs in 2025. He is out of contract at Turf Moor at the end of the season, at which point he will be able to join on a free transfer. In 2023-2024 season, he had 25 appearances in the Championship with 9 goals and 3 assists. He predominantly plays more of a box-to-box, but I think he plays CDM number 8 sort of role. 29 years old, good pedigree. I imagine he's been at Burnley for a while, so he's obviously won the Championship with Burnley under Vincent Kompany. Another player we've been linked with, who we've seen his name pop up a few times, is Manchester City attacking midfielder James McAtee. He's an exciting young player with a bright future in the game, and he's also been linked with joining Celtic and a few other clubs. 22-year-old has found regular football hard to come by under Pep Guardiola, and the Scottish Premiership giants are believed to be eyeing him up. That'd be us, by the way, the Premiership giants. James McAtee has had 9 appearances in all competitions so far, scoring 1 goal in the Champions League. So he's had some Champions League experience, Phil. Another player that's been linked is Kieran Dewsbury-Hall. He's struggled to make any kind of impact at Chelsea this season. I wonder why.
He's a fantastic player. I love him, but I don't.
He's a great. He looked really good, Reegan. And so he had the move that got him. So last year he had 45 appearances and he scored 12 goals with 14 assists under the same manager that signed him to Chelsea is now refusing to play him. Take that how you want. But he's also been linked. These guys, listen, like I said, pinch of salt.
He's a great player.
I would love him to come to Celtic, but
like
I said, this isn't an injury-prone 27-year-old talking about here. So, but what these guys all got in common?
Brendan Rodgers, what with him?
I don't know, maybe. No, I was going to say they're all midfielders. There's been questions asked of our midfield depth as of late, with the likes of Hatate not really performing to the heights of one good pass against Real Madrid. I'm only joking. And of course, obviously, Bernardo hasn't. It's been a bit of a hit or a miss, we could say. We've seen some performances as to why we signed them permanently, and we've also seen some performances to question if we should have kept them. So the point I'm getting at here is, it looks like Brendan has maybe started to look at the midfield, the centre midfield, which is surprising, Phil, because obviously I know we're all kind of screaming out for a left back and wingers and potentially a striker over the midfield role. But any of these guys tickling your fancy, if true? Remember, guys, this is purely speculation and rumours and that. But this is what we like to talk about as fans.
Well, I'm not going to try and say that I'm an expert on all those players, but I'm encouraged by the fact that we're looking at that position, because I think it is a position that we need to look at. At the start of the season, it felt like midfielder options are fantastic, but again, there has been a bit of a drop-off recently. The Hatate stuff is interesting. Again, this is where the body language experts come out. His heart's not in it and whatnot. See, Hatate has said in interviews since he's been at Celtic about his grand plan for his career, his bigger vision, essentially. Whether he gets that big move at some point, who knows? But see, Hatate right now, we know how good he can be, but right now we're getting like 1 in every 5 or 6 games of a decent performance out of him. So it's definitely an area that we need to improve. Engels, I think, will be... I've said a few times, by the end of the season, I think Engels will still have a solid season and he'll progress next season because he is still very, very young. But McGregor is obviously not immune to criticism as well. And he, again, like, can't be playing every single week. There's nothing wrong with a wee bit of rotation to protect him. He literally retired from the Scotland games, of playing for Scotland, to also extend his Celtic career. But you can see at times in some games this season, he does get exposed because, again, maybe it's just the system we're playing. But there could be games where, he could do with, like, sitting out and we'll still be good enough to beat, some of the teams that we're playing. So it wouldn't be the worst option to improve our midfield, and that sort of part of but I say Hitate's future, who knows what that holds. Bernardo will definitely be here next season. We're going to keep him for a couple of years.
Yeah.
I say Engels, yeah. Hitate, big question mark. Luke McCown has obviously came in and has played really, really well. When he came in, he surprised a lot of people. Most people didn't expect the performance. So instead, once you take those four and we play 3 centre midfielders every game, if Hitate's obviously not here next season, for example, or is just still as inconsistent as ever, I do think we need to be looking in that area. So I'm encouraged at least to hear that that's an area that we're looking at, definitely.
Guys, I want to bring in our backstage correspondent, Michelle Reid, who has been giving us some breaking news. Atalanta have contacted Celtic and interested Engels. It's just been announced, and she's also come in with Tottenham have also expressed interest in Nicholas Kuhn. Back off, Ange. Thank you, our backstage correspondent, Michelle Reid. By the way, keep these coming in, baby. I'm only having a bit of fun. Reegan, you're a Tottenham fan. We know you are, and that's fine. Do you see Nicholas Kuhn being of any interest to Ange? Any substance to that?
He's looking for a wide player, but I don't see it in January now.
Nah, I can't see it either. And of course, the Atalanta Engels one, this came out of left field there.
I don't think Celtic would sell at this point, Dave, especially after spending that amount of money. Yeah. I think Rio Hatate will be next on the chopping block. I think he'll probably go in January.
Yeah, I think Rio Hatate's days are numbered. I wouldn't. I've always really liked Hatate, and I've always kind of stuck up for Hatate, but it's got harder and harder to stick up for Hatate. Phil, I said in the comments when I was in the comments on a Friday feeling, I think it was. I said that obviously he's got these magic moments, these passes that are just unbelievably magic. But I mean, I think if I did 100 passes, I'd get at least one magic one. Like, I'm starting to wonder if that's what's happening. It's like, is he as good as we always thought, or is it just been like, he does enough of it? Eventually, one will come off.
It does feel like he's playing a different game at times. To some of the moves you see that he tries to pull off, if it comes off, it's brilliant. But it just feels like all the other players aren't expecting it. They aren't reading the way he plays on the half turn and tries to get a pass away right away, and nobody seems to read it. So all that happens is it just gets intercepted and the groans go up, because that's another ball given away. So I do think his race is run at Celtic. I don't know if he'll leave this early in January. I think he might be at the end of the season. But
I don't think he gets that Premier League move that he was hoping for either.
Oh, I'd say on current form, I don't see any teams from the big 5 leagues taking a real go. I mean, the one manager out there that I was like, surely he's going to come in for him would be Ange. I was convinced that if Ange was going to come back and try and take any Celtic players to Tottenham with him, I was thinking Dyson Maeda will probably be on his list, and Rio Hatate. They were the two that stood out to me, and so far Ange just came in for nobody. But yeah, I thought, well, Rio Hatate surely is one that he'll go for, but no, not to be. So we'll see what the future holds there regarding that one.
Players that are heading out the door, Stephen Welsh is expected to sign on loan with KV Michelin. Their deal has been agreed between the clubs for Welsh to join in the remainder of the season. Michelin have been long-time admirers of Welsh and wanted to land a defender in the summer but couldn't strike a deal. Celtic, though, have now decided that a temporary exit can be sanctioned for Welsh to get himself more first team game time. And of another centre-back out the door, Naroki. We've all just managed to learn how to say his name, and he's already heading out the door. But he's very keen to leave the club this month, having grown frustrated with a lack of playing time. 23-year-old missed out on the chance of leaving Celtic last summer, but instead wants to make sure that he moves on to Pastors New before the January window closes. Now, if that's the case, Reegan, 2 centre-backs leaving. Are we getting another centre-back in the door? Now, there was talk of one of our centre-backs out on loan coming back. Was it Dane Murray?
Dane Murray, yep. He's at Queen's Park.
Yeah, so he's apparently coming back. So that kind of fills that whole Scottish player quota that Welsh leaves behind. But does that, the fact that Norocki, that we paid a handsome bit of cash for, and barely played, does that mean there's another centre-back coming in?
Possibly, but I don't think I don't think Celtic would spend a lot of money on another centre-back because they've already got Trusty, Carter Vickers. I know people had a lot of criticism for Scales, but I think they tend to forget. I don't know if you remember it, Phil, but Scales has done really well. He played well in the derby match when Bernardo scored the 2.
Yeah.
I think it was last Christmas when Stephen Welsh was playing at the back with him. And I think people can be fickle because he played well in that match and nobody really said much when now he's had the one bad game. So I think Scales will still be part of it. But I do think it'll be an area on the summer transfer window that they'll try and look at David, but I don't think for January.
Yeah, that's fair, mate. Well, that comes.
I know that Paul Tisdale's took up his role last month, so it'll be interesting to see what kind of players he'll be looking at.
Oh yeah, of course. That's also happened. So yeah, this is his first window. So, but hey, with the January window, time is ticking. You know, we're already a week into January, so you know you got to move on here. But typical Celtic will probably go to the last minute on deadline day, won't it?
And I'm not doing any bets with you this time, Regan. All right.
How many players are we getting in, dude?
No, I'm not. We're not playing that game, mate. We're not playing that. No.
Speaking of games, playing games, David.
Yes, it's time for Last Team Standing. Last time we did. What did we do? Was it Strikers?
It was Strikers, yes. You put me on the spot with Strikers, yes.
Yes, well, this time it's Regan's turn.
Here we go.
We're going to do, since in the last 15 years, Regan, you're getting to go through some right backs.
All
right.
Chaduri.
Well, we shall see. We shall see. Right, okay.
So do you want me to do the banners, David, or do you want to do them?
I've got them here in front of me, mate.
Right, okay, cool, mate.
I appreciate it, though. So just so people who didn't see it last time, you've all seen the wee TikTok craze and the Facebook craze where pundits and fans will get a name brought up and they have to decide whether they would like to stick with that player or they want to twist with and go with the upgrade of their choosing. Okay, so we're going to start off with Tony Ralston or Jeremy Tolja. Now remember, Regan, I want your decisions to be made on their playing days at Celtic, not the player that they've went to become at other clubs. It's purely on their performances for Celtic. Would you rather have Tony Ralston starting at right back or Jeremy Toljan?
Tony Ralston.
Tony Ralston. Right, okay, we're starting with Tony Ralston. So we go with Tony Ralston or John Joe Kenny?
Tony Ralston, oh my God.
Sticking with Tony Ralston.
You know, John Joe Kenny, Shane Duffy. That was a bad time in my life.
Okay. So we're sticking with Tony Ralston. Tony Ralston or Hatem Abd El Hamid. Do you remember him?
That's a difficult one, David. Because he was good in the Neil win at the start.
He was good, mate. He got a bit homesick. He wanted to go home. So we didn't get much time with old El Hamid, but he turned up. I remember it was his debut against Rangers.
His debut was against Rangers, but he had a fantastic game at Ibrox that day. Yeah, he was brilliant that day.
Are you going with Tony Ralston or El Hamid, Regan?
I'm sticking with Tony Ralston.
Sticking with Tony Ralston. Didn't realise I was playing with Mark Carey. All right. Tony Ralston or Mark Wilson?
Do you know, Mark Wilson, he tried his best. He did. You know,
Absolutely caved in that Sassy Papic's face with that shot. That
he
was.
did.
I remember watching that thinking, bloody hell, he's killed him. That, honestly, I was like, holy hell, that was some strike. And fair play, got up for that, by the way.
I'm going to stick with Tony Ralston.
All right, okay.
Ralston survives, man. He's hanging in there.
Well, it's a theme of his Celtic career, I think. Right. Is he going to survive this one, though? Tony Ralston or Mikael Lustig?
No, David, that's an easy one for me. I'm sorry, Tony. You've been great. You've created some great memories. Ross County under Big Ange, you know, some great Champions League matches, squaring up to Neymar and Mbappe and all that. But I mean, you've got to go with Mikael Lustig.
PC Lustig. Constable Lustig.
Yep, I was at that game 5-0. The Edward days, I call it. It was a great match.
It's going to get harder now, Reegan. It's going to get harder, right? So Mikael Lustig or Alistair Johnson, Canadian future captain.
Oh, that's a hard one.
Throw a spanner right in the works there, mate.
I'm sorry, Ali. Right? I'm sorry, Ali. I'm going Mikael Lustig. Mikael Lustig was a hero. You know, the guy was he was here for like a long time. I remember when he first came, Phil, a lot of people didn't fancy him, even Neil Lennon kind of didn't like him at the start, but he really sort of found himself under Brendan Rodgers as well. So I'm going to go Mikael Lustig.
What cracked me up about Lustig was when he came in, he just looked different like a football player with that crazy hairdo and little moustache thing he had going on. I was like, who's this we've signed? But yeah, so right, so stick with Mikael Lustig. Mikael Lustig, Reegan, or the cha-cha slide, Chaduri.
Oh man,
Mr. Own Goal himself. Do you remember that? Do you remember that pass back to Forster where he ran back in slow motion? It's like he glitched. He was that slow. Like,
did he not score against Rangers? Or was that a kind of El Chaduri guy?
El Chaduri, yeah, went through Alan McGregor's hands at Ibrox. Yeah, we lost that game though, so we try to forget that one.
Chaduri was a weird one, man. I felt like he was. I mean, no disrespect here, but I couldn't help but feel he was signed to be a bit of company for Ki Sung Young. When we signed Ki Sung Young, he brought them in together, and I almost felt like it was just to give him some familiarity with another player, like from his own country. And that's not me. I always kind of felt like that because Chaduri didn't really do much for me, and I just was like, it's like such a weird signing at the time.
I know. I'm no as much as I respect him, David. I need to stick with Mikael Lustig.
Mikael Lustig, that's fair, mate. Okay. Now remember, I said before we started, not the player that he's gone on to be, the player at Celtic. Okay, this is when it gets a bit more difficult for you, Reegan. Jeremy Frimpong or Mikael Lustig?
Oh my days, David, this is going to be a difficult one for me. You know,
got a script here, Phil.
I remember, right, when Jeremy Frimpong had a great game against Aberdeen, I think it was, Phil. Remember, he had a good game against Aberdeen and he was absolutely brilliant. But, you know, I can never forget that when he gets sent off against Rangers, the cup final, Fraser Forster saves the penalty, you know, and then he runs on the pitch. But you've got, I mean, remember, we're talking about the Celtic supporters' perception. It's funny how the perception changed on him because I remember January kind of 2020 when he kind of left, everybody was raging and all that, saying it's shocking he's leaving midway through a season when everybody's kind of bailing out the squad. So it's funny how people can be judged on, and now he's got on to have a great career in Bayer Leverkusen, but I'm probably going to have to stick with Mikael Lustig.
So stick with Mikael Lustig. Now, before we move on to the next one, Phil, we've missed a player out here, right?
All right.
And it's your ma has actually brought him up and reminded me all about this guy. This is how forgetful Juarez, was he a right back? I'm sure he was a right back. Was he a left back?
He could play a few positions. He was a jack of all trades, master of none, basically. You know,
A
I
lot of
remember seeing people,
transvestite prostitutes and cocaine, apparently. But
apparently so, yeah.
I
I remember
remember,
that as well. Yeah.
I remember seeing people when he
what's your
first
boat?
signed. They got like, I think, what they got like a number. I think he was 33 or something. They got
Who?
his what?
He was number 4.
What was it for?
Kaya was 33.
I
Sorry,
think
I'm like Rain Man when it comes to
yeah,
Celtic.
a lot of people got him in the back of the top, but
What is 4?
he never really went on. I remember he actually became the assistant manager under Ronnie Dyler.
That's right. And is it New York?
And do you know who Ronnie Dyler's number 2 is now, David?
No.
It's a former Celtic and Rangers player. Do you know who it is, Phil?
No, not off the top of my head, no.
Played for Celtic and Rangers. He scored a
Oh,
goal.
Kenny Miller.
Kenny Miller, aye.
Aye. Yeah, Kenny Miller. Anyway, right. Okay, so Mikael Lustig, you're still sticking with him. Okay, next up, Adam Matthews.
Do you know, I liked him. I'm not just saying that because I met him, but he was a good player. And I don't know, I had a wee soft spot for him. Don't know. It's hard.
Pick one, Reegan. Come on. If you put a gun to your head. Mikael Lustig.
Nah, Lustig, aye.
Stick with Lustig. Okay, mate. And last but not least, Fireball himself, Josip Juranovic.
Oh man, the
Croatian internationalist.
the enigma. You know what I mean? This guy, right?
Jeff Hardy, mate.
He was a good player, right? But he was overblown to the extreme. You know, if you were
Croatian internationalist, mate.
if you were ever to hype up a player, it was him. You know, your YouTube clips, you had everybody blowing up his backside, but I need to stick with Lustig, you know what I mean? I need to stick with Lustig.
Stick with Lustig. And just again, we've missed it. Bauer, mate. This is forgettable. I mean, he had
What a guy! What a guy!
Morris Bauer. God, the only thing I remember about him was he took a really bad tackle over Jordan Jones. Ibrox, aye. Yeah, remember that? Aye. There you go. Bauer ended Jones's career by doing nothing. He did, actually. That's a fair shout. But yeah, Morris Bauer. His name did come up in my head when I was putting the list together, but even I was like, oh, I don't know, man. There's only so many names we could put on there, essentially. We had to try.
I know. He would be here all night as well.
So
But we all
Mikael
know.
Lustig is the winner. Mikael Lustig is the undisputed champion. Good stuff.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. At this rate, we'll need to do a whole starting 11. Or maybe a 5-a-side. But thanks for playing Last Standing, Reegan.
No problem. Enjoyed it.
There's no prize.
Oh,
sorry. I'm not sorry. I'm not sorry at all, actually. You get enough for me. Right. Of course, we've got the Dundee United game tomorrow. We don't have time to talk about that because we chose to play a wee game instead. So if you were tuning in to get our insight on
5 minutes, and I'm sure we can get a wee quick blarer on it. Can we?
Aye, sure.
Surely we can.
Right, pulling creative control here, Phil. All right, okay. Can I get my tea, mate? Right, okay. Quick prediction. Who's starting up front?
Oh God! At the moment, neither of them are in great form. I'd probably say Kyogo. Try and get in behind them because again, we tried Ida at the weekend, but then you're like, well, Ida, would he benefit for a run of games right now? Maybe, but yeah, it's actually a tough one to call. That is one of the biggest headaches that Brendan's got right now. Does a wild Johnny Kenny appear on the bench as well? Does that happen?
Was he back?
He'll be back now, Why not?
He's back from Shamrock Rovers.
He was in great form, Phil.
Yeah, so why not? If he appears on the bench, it gives you another option. We keep talking about a third striker. I wouldn't expect him to start, but why not have him in there in the bench? And if he needs to come on at some point, who knows? It could be a a masterstroke, pretty much. But yeah, the forward position right now is a real tough one because, again, Dundee United are going to be a team, just like how they played us the other week, even on their own patch. They're going to sit with 10 men behind the ball. They're going to try and hit us in the counter. They're not really going to look to come forward too much and try to take the game to us. It's going to be up to us to find a way through them. So they are going to make it difficult. And they are, fourth in the league right now, chasing down Aberdeen. Did they leapfrog Aberdeen?
The third,
Oh,
I think the third now, yeah.
I mean, they're third and they're looking, obviously, to catch Rangers. Unfortunately for them, they're now playing us, and we need to get the win on the board. So, sorry, Dundee United. But yeah, they will come and look to make it difficult for us, as they did a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, it was a 1-1 draw last time we played, am I right?
No. It was a
No,
goal.
no,
About Tannadice.
Forgetful game, clearly.
That was forgetful.
Yes, I'm looking forward. I'm going to it. So
David,
I'm going, mate. I rarely get, especially during the week, but my mates had a spare ticket. They got on the bus, Sporters bus at Witherspoon, England Northwich. There are other pubs available. So yeah, I'll be jumping on that bus and going along. So if you see me there, please don't give me abuse, please.
that'll be nice.
Give it to the players,
Brendan
will be raging. Give it to Brendan. Don't give it to me. Anyway, yes. So I might see you boys there if you're there.
Remember to wrap up very warm though tomorrow because it's going to be cold, very cold, like sub-zero type temperatures, I believe. So yeah, it's going to be an uncomfortable one for that.
Well, then I'm definitely be shouting abuse. But more just about how raging how cold I am. But yeah, so I'm looking forward to that. It'll be a good game, I'm sure. Midweek, freezing cold.
Yeah.
Let's wrap this up, guys.
Yeah.
I've enjoyed it. It's been a good laugh. It was a good debate we had earlier, Reegan. I'm sure people enjoyed that, hopefully. But thanks everybody for joining us on this Tuesday. We will again, but that's us back now. Be more consistent, I promise. But enjoy the rest of your Tuesday. Go and watch the Arsenal game and see if Kieran Tierney makes an appearance and doesn't hurt himself in the doing so.
Don't get injured.
Don't get injured,
Kieran, if you're watching.
Yeah.
In the changing room or on the bench. Right, guys. Take care. See you later.
Right. Cheers, guys.